What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Need to Know Talk Show. I'm your host, Donovan Marquez, and today we are getting into another episode of Life Lessons with D. Actually, this one is a very special episode. This episode was requested by one of our newest listeners. Shout out Miss Cecily. She had asked me, or better yet, she had told me that she really liked the story about being the villain in your own story and also about self-forgiveness. But she did ask me, she said, I would really like your views on forgiving others that have hurt you and what your take on that would be. So this episode is dedicated to you. Shout out to you, Miss Cecily. So let's get started, guys. So we've all been there, right? Someone you trusted let you down. Someone you loved hurt you, okay? And now all you're left with is the pain, the anger, the resentment, all of the above, right? Now, forgiveness might be the last thing on your mind, but here's the truth, okay? It's not about them. We have to understand that part when it comes to forgiveness, especially when you're trying to forgive someone else. It's not about them. It's about you, okay? It's about freeing yourself. So today's episode, we're talking about what it really means to forgive in plain and simple terms. We're not going to sugarcoat it here, guys, okay? I don't sugarcoat a damn thing, and anyone that knows me knows that. So let's get into it. So let's start by going over what forgiveness is and it is not, okay? Because there's two different parallels when it comes to that, okay? So let's clear this up. Forgiving someone doesn't mean what they did was okay, all right? It doesn't mean you forget or that you have to be friends again or even talk to them if you don't want to, okay? Forgiveness means choosing not to carry the anger anymore. You're letting it go so you can move on with your life, which is the ultimate end result here. All right. So think of forgiveness like setting down a heavy backpack full of bricks, right? And you've been carrying it for miles, and every mile you keep adding more bricks, more bricks, more bricks, and it's weighing you down. You don't need it anymore. And also, too, a good question to ask yourself is, what purpose does it serve you to hold on to this kind of anger? Okay. Now, there's a good quote by Lewis B. Smedes, if I can remember correctly. I'm probably going to butcher that name. Lewis B. Smedes. To forgive is to set a prisoner free and discover that the prisoner was you. Okay. And that rings so true. Okay, that's one of the truest quotes ever. You realize that the prisoner you're trying to set free is yourself. Okay. When someone really hurts us, forgiveness seems impossible. It seems like it's not even in the cards. We want justice, right? We want them to admit they were wrong, maybe even suffer a little. But here's the catch with that. That mindset will keep you tied to them as long as you think that way. You are holding on to them a lot tighter and longer than they are holding on to you. You have to understand that. Okay. Now, if you're waiting for an apology to forgive someone, you might wait forever. Some people will never own up to their mistakes. Forgiveness is something you do for you, not them. You have to understand that. You have to take that out of your mind, that forgiving someone is for their sake. It's for you, okay? Because holding on to a grudge doesn't hurt them. It hurts you. It can make you bitter, anxious, even physically sick. You know why I know this? Because I've been there and I've done that, okay? There's another quote that comes to my mind by Nelson Mandela. It says, Resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it kills your enemy, right? That's literally what it is. It's taking in poison and hoping that it will kill your enemies. That's what resentment feels like, okay? You poison your own self with it because you become bitter and anxious and all of those things. Now, forgiveness isn't about weakness. You have to understand that it's a benefit. It's a benefit to forgive somebody, okay? It's powerful. It means you are strong enough to let go of pain instead of letting it control you. You finally become a part of life. Okay, you finally become, instead of being a bystander and letting this anger and all this frustration control you, you finally take control of it and your life in the process. When you forgive, you make room for peace. Your energy stops going towards anger and starts going towards healing. Okay, I don't know about y'all, but I'm a big believer in energy, where you place energy, where you focus energy to, okay? It's a real thing to me, all right? People who practice forgiveness often, you'll often sleep better, you'll have less stress and feel lighter, and that's not any bullshit, okay? That is literally backed by research. People that forgive tend to sleep better at night. Kind of like everyone says, how do you sleep at night? Well, I forgave, And, with that being said, there's another quote by Martin Luther King Jr. I'm going to probably butcher this, so bear with me. Forgiveness is not an occasional act. It is a constant attitude. Okay. So with that quote, forgiveness is not like a one-time thing, right? It's not just like one and done. It's constantly being that way, staying that way. Okay. Now, everybody wants to know how to forgive someone. Maybe this forgiveness thing is new to you. Maybe you've held on to resentment for your whole life and you're wondering, you don't want it anymore. You just simply don't want it anymore. And that's understandable. Okay. So if I were to put it down into a step-by-step process, I'm not a therapist or a doctor by any means. So this is just the way I would put it into a step-by-step plan, I guess you could say. All right. So step one, as always, you have to acknowledge what happened. You can't forgive what you haven't faced. Be honest with yourself. What did they do? How did it make you feel? Don't sugarcoat a motherfucking thing. Go into it as raw as possible. What did they do? How did it make you feel? Okay. Step two, which seems to be one of the harder steps in this whole process, is feel the feelings. Okay. It's okay. You have to understand, it's okay to be mad. It's okay to feel hurt. Forgiveness doesn't mean skipping emotions. It means working through them. So you have to kind of get in tune with how you feel. Okay. That's one of the biggest steps, is to feel the feelings. You have to go through the shit to come out on the other side. You have to work through them. Right. Now, this may work for some, may not for others. Writing it down. Let yourself feel everything without any judgment and write it down. Okay. Some people are like, oh, that doesn't work. Some people, it works great. I know for me personally, writing things down works great. Okay. Now, once you've done that with yourself, now comes if you decide to forgive or not. This is the turning point. Okay. This part right here where you decide to forgive, excuse me, that is the turning point. Okay. You won't wake up one day magically just ready. Okay. You choose it. You decide, I don't want to carry this anymore. Okay. And then you move from there. Now, it might take time. You might have to remind yourself every day that it's okay. Forgiveness is a process, not a moment. Okay. Especially depending on the severity of the situation. Might be something small, might be something major. This could take years, guys. Okay. This is not a one and done, one nighter type deal. This kind of process could take years, months to years. Okay. Once you've become clear on you want to let it go. So another thing I would do is set boundaries. Okay. Forgiving someone doesn't mean forgiving them and then they give access to you again immediately. You know, you can forgive and still walk away. Those people don't need immediate access to you again. Okay. And then also, forgiveness doesn't equal reconciliation. Okay. Sometimes the healthiest thing to do is love people from a distance. And that can go with anything. I know a lot of this forgiveness stuff comes from or stems from relationships mainly, but there are those outliers that are just hurt by family members or friends and things like that. Okay. But that sometimes you have to understand, guys, and this comes with like the last episode of self-forgiveness, while forgiving others also. Sometimes the best thing to do is just to love people from a distance. You either remove yourself from their lives or you remove them from your lives and they're not allowed access to you. Okay. So that kind of goes back to the last episode. So if you're trying to forgive yourself and you know you've wronged someone, then removing yourself from their lives to love them from a distance may be the best thing you can do. Okay. Now, if someone has wronged you, removing them from your life and loving them from a distance may be the best thing for you to do. Okay. Now, one of the hardest parts of all of this is letting go. Okay. Over and over at that. Okay. So we'll get into that. Some wounds reopen. Old memories come back. When that happens, just breathe. Remind yourself why you forgave and let go again. Sometimes you will have to let go over and over. Okay. And that is one of the hardest parts for people to do, myself included. Sometimes you'll let go of one thing and then another thing will come up. And then you realize that you have to let go again. It is sometimes a part of the process. Okay. And also, too, you have to always understand that healing isn't linear. All right. There's no straight shot when it comes to healing. Okay. It's pretty much like a fucking roller coaster. You got loops, you got turns, you got banks, you got all kinds of shit that get in your way. Okay. Some days will be harder than others, and we can't discount those days. But that doesn't mean that you're failing. It just means that you're human. All right. And you have to understand that, guys, we are human. We feel things differently. Everyone feels things differently. Okay. Now, on the last episode, we touched on self-forgiveness. And that in itself is a process. But it also does tie in as well as to forgiving others. You know, they kind of go hand in hand. Okay. There's a famous quote by Mark Twain. Mark Twain. Okay. Forgiveness is the fragrance that the violet sheds on the heel that has crushed it. Okay. So sometimes your forgiveness is what's going to last after you've been crushed by someone. Understand? Now, let's go over some common myths about forgiveness. Okay. Myth number 1. Forgiving means forgetting. Truth is, it means remembering without the pain. So when you forgive someone and you can go back and talk about the issue without feeling the pain, you know you're on the right track. Okay. Myth number 2. If I forgive, they get away with it. No. All right. If you forgive, you're choosing freedom for yourself. Okay? Not them, for you. They're going to move on with life regardless. You're choosing freedom for yourself. Understand that. And the last one, I have to tell them I forgave them. Or I'm sorry, I have to tell them I forgive them. Forgiveness can be silent, all right? It's about what's in your heart. Now, if you just go on and forgive somebody and you don't tell them, you just do it for you quietly. It's the same thing, guys. It all is what is in your heart at that time. Okay? So that's still forgiving someone just quietly. Okay? Now, like I said, is how this ties into the last episode, is forgiving yourself in the process of this. All right? Because sometimes the hardest person to forgive is you, like I said. All right? Now, along with forgiving someone, forgiving yourself in the process, like maybe you're blaming yourself for letting someone in so close to you. Or maybe you wish you had realized before they had wronged you all the red flags or anything like that. But you got to understand, guys, you got to give yourself some grace, okay? Just be gentle with yourself. You did the best you could with what you knew at the time. Give yourself some grace. You are human. We're not mind readers. We can't get into people's heads and things like that, okay? Just give yourself some grace, okay? Like Maya Angelou said, quote, shout out to Maya Angelou, all right? Forgive yourself for not knowing what you didn't know before you learned it. You have to understand that. All right. But with that being said, guys, we all know that forgiveness is not easy, but it's worth it. You deserve to be free. You deserve peace in your life, this short life we live. Okay. Now, there's like a small little exercise. Think about someone you haven't forgiven. What would it feel like to finally let go of the resentment? Not for them, guys, not for them, for you. Okay? But as always, thank you for listening. Now, if this episode spoke to you in any way, send it to someone who might need it. And remember, your healing is your responsibility. And forgiveness is how you take your power back into your life. Okay? But as always, we appreciate you tuning into this episode. Leave us a rating and review anywhere that you're listening to this talk show. And we love you. We'll see you on the next episode.